Hi there, alright, so here's your past life spread. So, what we're going to do is look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and the feelings involved, another important day with relationships and feelings involved, the death and lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout. So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what we're getting through here and your current life, and I'll try to help however I can as well. Okay, so let's start here where you are, and this is the Americas card. It can mean North, Central, or South America, and it feels like we're going to South America, and it feels like we're being put into a indigenous tribe much further back where there isn't colonization yet. It feels like we're looking at what we would consider maybe an ancient civilization. It feels like even like these people, what they've left behind, people we've already discovered or found, explorers have found the remains, but it also feels like we're looking at something that has a lot more mystery and hidden aspects to it that will be revealed over the coming years. Like there's more to discover about these people, basically, is what it feels like. So it is South America. What does it feel like? It feels like we're going to the hold on, what is it? The west coast of South. Okay, so we're looking at the South American peninsula, or the continent, sorry. And like it's shaped like this, and then it's over here, so we're going west, and we're looking at somewhere in the like central west in South America. So Google that as far as geography, go look at the country that's there. I'm not sure if that is like Argentina or something, but it feels like we're looking at, it's not coastal, so it does not feel like we're along the water, but it feels like we are more eastern, and we're in probably it feels more like a very lush, thick jungle, and a lot, I want to say all of the lifetime is in the jungle, like, so this is forested areas. So how you can make connections, for example, would be one, have you ever been pulled towards South America, South American culture, cuisine, history, language, the mysteries of it, the indigenous people, if you've ever read about them or seen photos of the South American indigenous people, it could be Amazonian tribes, it could be any kind of indigenous people, and you felt a pull towards that, or recognition, or emotional trigger, or anything when you think of or see anything having to do with the South American indigenous people, that would be a connection as well. Anything as far as even indigenous, like heritage, history, loving the idea of knowing who you are in the land you are, just a theme, that kind of theme, if that's ever been an interest of yours, that would be a connection. This feels like, the more we're talking, it's interesting because it's like, I want to say we're looking at a female life, and it's really interesting because this is like the last reading I had where I think it was actually, no, I think that was for your friend. The last reading I had was for your friend who ordered this one for you, but and it was something about the female energy and the male energy, how there's a balance because this person works very hard. So it feels like there's a lot of manual labor involved, which we're going to see in what you do with most of your time is a laborer card. And it feels though like what they're doing is they're placing this aspect we're looking at underground, where it's like dark and there's bent overness, like there's tunnels underground, and there's something about you either building them, working on them, or carrying things through them. And there's this feeling of almost like, if this is a burial place, it's also a place of like, it feels like there's a lot of like belief, like having to do with what you're doing, like worshiping gods. That kind of belief is like you're doing what you're doing because it's like that's your place in society. It's like what you must do, but it's also having to do with belief in the sense of like, it feels like people are stocking up a tomb. It feels like that's what you do, is you're part of creating a tomb or a transitionary space for the leader of that place to go into once they pass. So it's kind of interesting. But it feels like there's a lot of darkness to the work that you do. Like, you know, they didn't have flashlights or anything like that. So it's almost like adjusting to the dark and also adjusting to the stooped overness, because it feels like these are not tunnels you can just walk through. So if you have issues with your back or neck in this life that bother you, that would make a lot of sense. Even if your posture, if there's a posture issue you have with your back or neck area, or even walking in a stooped manner, or anything like that, that would be a connection. As well as if you either, one, you have no fear of the dark, or two, you really dislike the dark a lot. That would be a connection, because you can have a direct connection of, hey, this is what you did for a living, you were used to it, and so that's how it carried over into your current life. Or it could be that because you experienced it here, the ease in the dark, that your soul would want to experience coming in and understanding what it'd be like to fear the dark, and not want to go through this kind of living again. So it would create a fear of the dark, so it would not have to do that. So you see, there can be different kinds of connections made. So this can also be a connection in the way of, one, either you've chosen a life where you are working constantly with your body, or two, you may have chosen something else to do that's less physically demanding in your life. You might be someone that's like, I am not going to work a job where I have to like lift things or, you know, do manual labor, and that's perfectly well and good if that's the case too, because you already did it here. So a lot of times the soul wants to experience something else. Let's see. So keep making connections with these cards however you can, and we're going to go to the first important day. So the first important day, there is death here, is the card, which usually means we're watching a death or witnessing a death of some kind. And the relationship involved is the soulmate card, which isn't always romantic. It is often enough, but not always. And then this feeling is like kind of like melancholy or lonely. And I'm trying to see what's going on here, because it feels like if it's not a death, like the death of a person, it could be the death of something. And I want to say, because it doesn't feel so much like a death as it does more like the death of a relationship or the death of a possibility, or it almost feels like you were engaged to another worker wherever you are, and that person either got sent on a quest or sent away to do something, and it was like they were gone. It's either they never came back, or the transfer of their work unit, wherever that is, took them away so that you never cross paths with them again. So it feels like this person was someone you were meant to be with, and kind of missed the opportunity there. So here, what we can possibly make a connection with can be, one, is there someone that comes to mind for you that meets this kind of situation where you feel like you may have brushed elbows at some point in your life, where you're seeing each other daily for a while, and then something happens where they go away, or you're moved this way, whether it's in a workplace or where you might bump into them in town, whatever it is, or a class or something like that. If there's someone that comes to mind, this could be that person as well. So if that's the case, all this means is to pursue whatever you feel you want to pursue with that person, if anything, if that comes around at all. And if this isn't occurring in your life at all, that's okay. Just tuck it away for a later time and see what happens. But for that person, again, it's about following your intuition. If you want to take it to another level, whether it's friendship or whatever it is, feel free, if that speaks to you at all. You also this also can speak to someone who is really good with coping with things like loss or change, or being adaptable to things like that. It would make sense if that was a connection, if you are someone that can change, can adapt to change rather easily for survivor's sake. Like if you're just easy to adapt just so you can like survive, whatever's going through, or you're good in a crisis, you might have a level head in a crisis kind of thing. This would just be because in this life what happened was you carried on with your life without letting it I guess, affect you, for lack of better terms. Like you're like, okay, there's a change, and then you have to adapt. At the same time, we're also looking at something where someone is not looking outside the box, or not willing to take a risk either in that way, not even allowing herself to think of changing things up or think of looking for him now that he's got that kind of thing. So that could also be a message that if you are on the brink of something, like you want to take a risk with starting a business, or you want to make a decision in your life where you're just kind of hovering on a decision, not knowing what to do, this would just be kind of like being brought up to show you what can happen. Either one, you go down one road and you regret not, taking action when you could have, possibly. Maybe you won't regret it, but maybe you will. And do you want the possibility of regretting not doing something that you might have really wanted to do, that you're passionate about, if that makes sense? So keep that in mind, because there's no really right or wrong answer with that, but it's just like, go with your gut, go with what excites you, go with what brings you the most happiness and joy, kind of deal, when it comes to that. So keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can, based on this. This also can speak to, you might be someone also, not just who adjusts to change, but who also can handle death maybe a little better than others around her. So you might be that person that people find or seek out for consolation, which could actually indicate if you are considering trying a new hobby or new career or something like that, going into therapy of some kind, where it's about you listening to people who need to be heard. That might be a really lucrative area for you if you were considering anything having to do with that. And if not, that's perfectly fine, just stuff that's coming up. But we're going to go to the next important day. And what's really cool too is when, like the last reading I had, there was this combo as well, I believe was the Mother Nature card and Family card. But the Mother Nature card can mean usually like a natural disaster is occurring. As you know, there are many that can happen, different kinds. The relationship is the Family card, and this is just rolling right along. So I'm just trying to see what's happening here. So what it feels like is happening is there is some kind of drought being experienced. It feels like things are really dry. And I'm just trying to see what's happening on this day that would make it an important day. The drought, Family, rolling right along. I don't know. I'm just trying to see, because they're showing me you. And they're showing me with like you with a child, but it doesn't feel like it's your child. It feels like it would be like a younger sister. So it's almost like your parents just had a child, even though they're much older. And there's something about this that's really good, because it takes the pressure off of you, because it's like you haven't found anyone really like to pair up with. Like there's like, you haven't had a union with anyone or anything like that. Like you don't have a family per se of your own, like a partner or anything. So that would indicate also someone in your, currently, one, if you're someone that if you find yourself yearning for a relationship when you're not in one, or if you're in one, it could be like very comfortable for you, because you feel like it would be like the thing to look for in a relationship that would make you most happy is one that is very stable, like where you don't have to doubt, you don't have to be reassured, you just know that like there's a really stable foundation. So if you're in a relationship and you feel like it's not going well, it could be because it might have started on a rocky foundation where it wasn't, like things weren't spoken of that should have been spoken of, or things, or maybe you weren't vulnerable with each other at a time when you could have been, because that's what really sets a foundation, is the vulnerability, being open and knowing the other person in ways that other people don't know them. Like you kind of like that, all that trust makes for a really good foundation. So if you find that you're not happy in a relationship currently, it could be because you need to have a vulnerable phase with that person to get to know them at a deeper level. So it feels like there's more depth to the relationship to experience. Otherwise you might be someone that gets kind of bored easily, or you don't feel, again, stability, where you don't want to commit in that way because you don't feel the stability's there. And so if you're not in a relationship, that's what you want to look for, is someone who is open to being vulnerable, who knows how to treat you when you're vulnerable, and through that trust builds a very stable foundation. So keep that in mind, and keep making connections where you can. As far as what we're looking at here with the Mother Nature card. Oh, the drought, by the way, that could also be something that your soul takes with you and carries through in a way that where you're dehydrated. So if you are someone who is dehydrated, or you get dehydrated easily, or you know you're supposed to drink more water, this would be a message for you to, hey, go ahead and make sure you hydrate yourself often. And so I feel like there's more with the family card, but keep making connections where you can with this. And again, as far as building a steady foundation in a relationship, once that is there, the rolling right along peaceful card, that's where you'll be at. That's what it will bring, is that foundation will bring a peacefulness to your life. So let's go to the death. Here is the fire card, the burn baby burn card. And we get this a lot when it's like, oh, witches burning at the stake, this and that. So I'm just trying to see what's, okay. So it feels like you get trapped in a tunnel because of a fire being started. And I don't know if it's because the drought that the fire started outside and then surrounded the entryways, but it feels like you basically get put to sleep through the smoke, and then I think it's probably actually, it feels more like it's asphyxiation, like you die from the smoke inhalation, but you're asleep before it hits you, so you don't suffer. It just feels like you just breathe it in, go to sleep, and then you just kind of die in your sleep. So in your current life, you could have a huge aversion to smoking, or you don't like being around people that smoke, or fires might bother you for no reason, like you don't know why flames bother you, or you might have asthma or allergies. Mostly this would probably be more asthma than anything. So if you do suffer from asthma, it would come from this most likely. But once you know about these connections, you can always get rid of them, through like self-meditation, self-hypnosis, all that good stuff. But keep making connections where you can with the burn card, and we'll go to the lesson here. And this lesson is boundaries. And it's kind of interesting because what's coming through is that even though your work, you had to, you had a technically like a boss or someone was in charge over you, this and that, but you weren't slaves. So it didn't feel like you were a slave. It just felt like you were worked very hard. And yet, because of the kind of work that you did that was kind of slave-like in manner, because of how hard it was, manually and mentally, you kind of boxed yourself in by creating boundaries for yourself in other ways. Like, oh, you couldn't go after this guy because they assigned him somewhere else. So it's like you took it as though they said no, you can't be together. That's how you took it. So there was this like kind of meekness in here, in this life, that you allowed yourself to kind of be ruled by rules that might not have even been rules, but that you created rules for yourself just to kind of, again, not take risks and keep your head down kind of thing, and not bring attention to yourself. So this would be coming up right now to remind you that not to box yourself in your current life. Wherever you are right now, don't limit yourself. Don't put boundaries around yourself. Make sure you're looking at your life, how you're living, what belief systems you have, and make sure you're looking at them and that they come from you, that you're happy with them, that they don't come from being taught them by others. Or if so, put your own spin on them. Just make sure that what you believe in and how you're living your life is how you want to live it, and that you're not living by rules set up by, let's say, your family when you were growing up, or by others like roommates that you might have had for a long time. Make sure you're living a routine or a lifestyle that is like specific to what you want to be doing. So just that's why I feel like this is for more than anything, the boundaries card is to make sure you're not keeping yourself inside of any boundaries, and make sure you are pushing all the walls down that you can, that you're aware of in yourself. And this is going to open up a lot of doors and opportunities for you when you're able to do that. So keep that in mind, and keep making connections where you can when it comes to the boundaries card. But yes, so This would also speak to the fact that because this girl is a very strong girl, physically, mentally, whatever, if you grew up and you were ever a tomboy at one time, or still are, or whatever it is, or you've shown masculine tendencies in whatever way masculine means to you, that would make sense. If you're also, if you've always had like strong muscles, or you've always had like a compact body or something that's like just strength, basically, over willowiness, so to speak, that would make sense too. On the other hand, having experienced a very strong body here, you could have come back into your current life with a weaker body just to experience it, so you could be making these connections in different ways. But anyway, there's your past life reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.